Yevgeny Prigozhin, the recently killed boss of the Wagner mercenary group, and Leonid Ryman, once Putin's communications minister and an old friend of his since the 1990s. Just two who've been using the services of a Russian-owned business that's become a secrecy factory. It's helped to create hundreds of UK-based firms where the real owners stay hidden. A 9-month investigation by the BBC, Finance Uncovered and the Seychelles Broadcasting Corporation reveals it's helped set up companies which have owned assets including private jets and yachts while masking who was really in control. And helped individuals use limited partnerships in the UK to secretly own assets, something the government thinks is impossible, or control them, including a sanctions-busting oil tanker and criminal enterprises from alleged fraud to fake medicine to illegal essay writing.
Really can't even be called a loophole. I mean, it's so wide you can drive an oil tanker through it.
This is the Seychelles, best known as a destination for holidays and honeymoons. But this paradise in the Indian Ocean has a shady side. It's become a magnet for people from Russia and other former Soviet Union countries who want to hide their wealth, and our own government is letting it happen. Last year, the BBC and Finance Uncovered revealed how close associates of the Russian president had been dodging sanctions with impunity, while fugitive oligarchs and suspected criminals were using English limited partnerships to do business in secret. Tonight, we expose a Seychelles-based company selling secrecy on an industrial scale. Run by Russian national Viktoria Valkovskaya, Alpha Consulting has helped set up hundreds of firms with sham nominees, pretend owners, hiding who really controls them.
Работаем.
Among its clients was Yevgeny Prigozhin, who died on the 23rd of August, just 2 months after staging a short-lived armed rebellion against Vladimir Putin's war. Prigozhin not only ran the Wagner mercenary group, now designated terrorists, he also led the internet research agency hacking operation, which attempted to influence the 2018 US midterm elections. The US sanctioned a company set up by Alpha called Verity Group Limited, which owned a jet and a yacht. Now, leaked documents show that the hidden beneficial owner was an elderly woman, Tasia Kryasheva from Murmansk on Russia's Arctic coast, who just happened to be the mother-in-law of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Alpha also helped set up 3 offshore companies in which a beneficial interest was held by Leonid Ryman, a former Putin advisor and communications minister who'd run a telecoms firm that employed the Russian president's wife, Lyudmila. Ryman was found by a Swiss tribunal in 2006 to have been the secret owner of a company called IPOC that received corrupt payments while he was communications minister. In 2008, a court in the British Virgin Islands fined IPOC $45 million after the company was convicted of perverting the course of justice and furnishing false information. It appears Alpha's nominee failed to declare Mr. Ryman was a politically exposed person. Anti-money laundering experts say that's a clear breach of the rules.
If you are knowingly doing business with somebody who is a politically exposed person, and Ryman is a close associate of Putin, really clearly falls into that definition. So that's not an oversight, that is a failure.
Alpha Consulting told us it carried out all the required checks on Leonid Ryman. It says it didn't find information to suggest that Mr. Ryman was involved in money laundering or other wrongdoing. Alpha wouldn't comment on the ultimate owner of Verity Group Limited, but said it was transferred to a different provider in 2015. And it's not only Putin-linked oligarchs it's helped. From the Seychelles, Alpha Consulting has been helping to create hundreds of anonymously owned limited partnerships that exploit a gaping loophole in UK law at ordinary addresses like this. If you believe the UK's official records, this building here in Churchill Way, Cardiff, the office at the top above the beautician, is a hive of industry. Alpha Consulting since 2017 set up more than 280 partnerships here, some of which have been used to run oil tankers that have bust sanctions. Let's see if anyone's in. Surprise, surprise, there's no one there. The truth is, of course, that most of the people who are signed up as the general partners of the companies registered here in Cardiff have never actually set foot in the UK. They're effectively stooges, people in the Seychelles who've been paid to give their signatures but don't actually know what's going on in the companies under their name.
They're wonderful if you want to stay secret, because the registration requirements are minimal. You don't have to ever file anything again. There are no accounts. That's it. Just a piece of paper with a couple of names and an address on, and you've now got yourself an English limited partnership.
Before the English limited partnership goes on official records at Companies House, are there any checks on whether the owners are who they say they are?
There are none. There are no checks.
Nothing at all?
In fact, most of the information you don't even need to provide, like your address. There has to be an address for the partnership, but you don't have to provide an address for the general partner, who themselves could be a company and from anywhere in the world.
Alpha looks like it's helping people run rings around the UK's attempt to out hidden owners. Since 2017, it's helped create more than 900 limited partnerships, 1 in 5 of all such partnerships set up in that time.
I call the Home Secretary to move second reading.
The Home Office, led by Suella Braverman, decided not to amend the new Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act to force them to disclose who owns or controls them. According to the government, that's not a problem, because those English limited partnerships can't own anything.
Dirty money, fraudsters and gangsters are not welcome in the UK.
But we've uncovered evidence that far from owning nothing, some of the English limited partnerships have been used to own or run very substantial assets, including oil tankers. Many of them look like they're owned by Seychelles residents, including a man who seems like he must be a prolific entrepreneur, Luther Dennis. He's the general partner of 184 UK limited partnerships, according to official documents. One of the companies that was under his name was called Mr. Drake PC, which owned an oil tanker called the Delphi that was wrecked off the coast of Odessa in Ukraine in 2019. Investigations by the authorities have been unable to identify the secret owner hiding behind the Mr. Drake partnership, or make them pay for the cleanup.
Well, the beneficial owner, as they're known, are ultimately liable and responsible for any of the environmental costs or damages that the vessel causes. And also, if there is no known beneficial owner, if there is an environmental spill or if their crew are treated poorly in any way, then there's no recourse.
But we've seen documents saying the beneficial owner is Alla Kovtunova, the mother of Oleg Kovtunov, a former local politician in the now banned pro-Russian Party of the Regions. Another partnership called Silken was involved in managing an oil tanker called Ostra. Under different names, it had already breached sanctions, and we've discovered its tracking data was turned off, vanishing for 3 weeks in September last year while off the coast of Venezuela, indicating it may have breached sanctions there too.
In this context, the ship will go dark because it wants to obscure its destination and its ultimate loading of a cargo and where it will deliver it. And that is not only very dangerous, but it also means that the volumes of oil lifted and the sanctions circumvention can't be easily tracked in order to deceive, evade, and keep one step ahead of any regulatory authorities that are monitoring these vessels.
That happened when Silken's responsible partner was, you guessed it, Luther Dennis. When you look at the official documents stored here at Companies House in Cardiff, it looks like Luther Dennis must be some sort of shipping magnate or serial entrepreneur. And he signs documents which give away the ultimate control to the real owners. That leaves a gaping loophole where Companies House won't tell us who really owns these companies.
To me, it's a shock that the government hasn't used the opportunity of this economic crime bill to close down every loophole of which it is aware. And it certainly is aware of this one. And frankly, it really can't even be called a loophole. I mean, it's so wide, you can drive an oil tanker through it. The government has the chance to close it down with this legislation. It's choosing not to.
We asked Luther Dennis to comment, but he declined to say anything publicly. Alpha Consulting told us,
Alpha Consulting's involvement in UK-based limited partnerships is limited to providing advice and assistance with registering, incorporating and structuring them in accordance with UK regulations. the management and operational decisions of these businesses remain the sole responsibility of those and clients and the individuals that run them. We have customer due diligence and anti-money laundering procedures in place, which comply with laws set by the relevant regulatory authorities.
The European Union has now added the Seychelles to its transparency blacklist. Our partner at the Seychelles Broadcasting Corporation challenged the regulator there on our findings.
Perhaps Seychelles is being used as a way to circumvent those sanctions. The FSA's stance and position on sanctions is to ensure that Seychelles as a financial services center is not abused or used by any nefarious characters or criminals or people who might be evading sanctions to basically continue what they're doing. So it's something that we take very seriously.
The Department for Business and Trade told us its economic crime bill would make it easier for Companies House to tackle rogue agents and deregister illegitimate limited partnerships, and to challenge and remove suspicious information. But anti-money laundering experts say the UK is still wide open to dirty money.
We all know what it's like. You know, take your passport, take your utility bill, take whatever to get a basic bank account. And yet the government itself doesn't follow its own rules. It allows anybody to come along, put their name on a bit of paper, well, away you go, you've now got a company, you can go and trade anywhere in the world. Everyone thinks, oh, it's a British company, it's fine. And we're facilitating global corruption, money laundering, and all sorts of other crimes. It is a disgrace.
Far from forcing bad actors into the open, our evidence exposes a gaping hole in the UK's financial defences, which the government's failed to fix. As a result, suspected criminals and even members of Putin's inner circle could still use UK firms to facilitate illegal activity in secret, as if nothing's changed, without any fear of exposure to the light.